In the beginning of the story, one night in America, in 1858, two white men were seen carrying black slaves. At that time, black slavery was still rampant, because there are no laws that could protect them. In the middle of the night, a man suddenly appeared. The man's name is Dr. King. He is a dentist, as well as a fugitive hunter. Dr. King explained that currently, he was looking for an important fugitive, namely, the Brittle brothers. When he went down and examined the slaves, the slain said that he knew the fugitive that Dr. King meant. He is Jane Doe. After asking furthermore, Dr. King got interested in buying Jango to accompany him in pursuing the fugitives. However, the two white men there said the Jango was not sold. They ordered Dr. King to leave, or they would shoot him. However, Dr. King was faster than them. He could take them both down by himself. Dr. King then took Jango, released the other slaves, and ordered them to leave immediately. The next day, Dr. King together with Jango arrived in a city. Everyone was confused to see black people riding horses like ordinary citizens. After walking all night, they both decided to rest at a bar. Dr. King then explained that he needed Jango's help to catch 3 government fugitives, who are currently hiding in Gatlinburg, because previously Jango have been a slave to the 3 fugitives. Dr. King made a deal: if he succeeded in killing these 3 fugitives in exchange, Dr. King would free and from slavery. While he was arranging a plan, suddenly, the sheriff came to expel them, saying that black people were not welcome in the city. Hearing the insult just now, Dr. King got angry, and everyone was running in panic. Soon Marshall, the local police chief, came. Dr. King then introduced himself that he was a fugitive hunter, and said that he should be thanking him because the sheriff he just shot was on the government's wanted list with a reward of $200 for anyone who catches him dead or alive. It turned out that the sheriff had committed cow theft in Texas. Before Marshall was silent. He didn't expect that all this time his men would be government fugitives. Dr. King and Jango then continue their journey. When they stopped for a break, Dr. King asked what was Jango's plan when he was released. Jango replied that he wanted to find his wife Hilda, then set her free from slavery. After hours of horse riding, they finally arrived in Gatlinburg. They then disguised themselves, pretending to buy slaves from a rich man named Big Daddy. When they arrived at Big Daddy's house, Dr. King began to introduce himself. Big Daddy welcomed him in and set one of the female slaves to accompany Jango to show and around the plantation. While walking with the female slave, Jango asked if the slave girl knew Big Daddy's subordinate named Bro Brothers. He was shown that the Brill brothers were torturing black female slaves. After making sure that they were the fugitives, Dr. King was looking for Jango. Immediately killed them, but he could kill one because he ran away with his horse. Were they? When Dr. King came, Jango told him that one of the Brill brothers managed to run from a distance. Dr. King shot him dead right in the chest. Big Daddy suddenly came after the ruckus they made. He couldn't accept that his men were killed just like that. While raising both hands, Dr. King explained to the really was when he saw the letter from the government. Big Daddy couldn't do anything and could only order them to leave immediately before he changed his mind. At night, Dr. King knew that Big Daddy definitely wouldn't let the two of them go that easily. After killing his men, he prepared a trap by setting a bomb inside their wagon. It wasn't long before Big Daddy came with all of his men from a distance. Dr. King shot the bomb and blew away most of Big Daddy's men. The rest fled from the scene. Dr. King then gave him his gun so Jango could kill Big Daddy with his own hands. When hiding in the cave, Dr. King told Jango that all this time he really hated slavery, and that's why he treated Jango like his own friend. He also encouraged that one day Jango would definitely succeed in saving his wife. Since their mission to kill the Brill brothers had been successfully finished, automatically their agreement was also over. Jango finally had become a free person. But Dr. King offered him a new deal. He offered Jango to be his partner and hunting down fugitives during the winter, and would share a third of the proceeds for Jango. And if throughout the winter they both managed to collect a lot of money, he promised to take Jango to meet his wife in Greenville. Jango, who didn't know where to go in the end, agreed to the offer. While spying on a fugitive, Jango couldn't bear to shoot because the fugitive had a child. Dr. King then gave him the fugitive's wanted poster, while saying that that man has killed many people and caused many losses for other people. Even though it's a pity, he's still deserve punishment. Hearing the explanation just now, Jango could finally shoot without hesitation. You need to keep this because their journey then continued. Apart from hunting down fugitives after other fugitives, Dr. King also trained Jenko how to shoot better. The winter ended in Dr. King finally fulfilled his deal to accompany Go to the slave auction to find his wife. There were black people who were auctioned off to be slaves. From a list of slave names it was written that Jangle, his wife's name Hilda, was on by a wealthy businessman named Calvin. They both started to make plans to free Hilda from the hand of Calvin. At the night when visiting Calvin's office, they were shocked to see Calvin and the other businessmen having a bet on a slave fight. They were invited to sit and join and waiting for the fight to finish. After the fight ended, Dr. King said that his purpose and coming there was he wanted to buy the most expensive fighter slave the Calvin had for $12,000. Hearing that offer, Calvin was interested. The next day, Dr. King and Go along with Calvin himself went to Calvin's house. In the middle of the road a slave ran and climbed up the tree. Calvin then asked why he ran away crying. The slave said that he could not work as a fighter anymore because he was old. He kept begging Calvin not to punish him and gave him a better job. Unfortunately, Calvin was not fond of it. Felt that he was not needed anymore. Calvin ordered his men to kill him. When they arrived at Calvin's mansion, they were all greeted by the butler named Stephen and Calvin's younger sister. Before entering the house, Dr. King and Jangle saw Hilda been taken out of a punishment box after being locked overnight. Hilda was locked in the box as a result of not obeying Calvin's order. Seeing that made Jangle heartbroken. At night, Calvin's sister took Hilda to Dr. King's room to serve him. When Hilda entered the room, Dr. King told her to stay calm. When Jangle appeared from the back door, she suddenly fainted. At dinner, Hilda tried to stay calm. She continued to serve Dr. King so as not to be suspected. In the middle of dinner, suddenly Stephen forced Hilda to open her clothes and then showed her whip wounds on her back. Seeing her wife being abused in front of his eyes, Jangle could only hold back his anger. Luckily, Calvin's sister immediately stopped what Stephen was doing from Stephen's facial expression. And he was suspicious that Hilda and Jangle knew each other. He then interrogated Hilda, and after getting the information, Stephen asked Calvin to talk privately. He told Calvin that both Dr. King and Jangle were there to scam him. He was not there to buy a slave, but to take Hilda away because she turned out to be Jangle, his wife. Feeling scammed, Calvin ordered his men to surround both Dr. King and Jangle. He also took Hilda and then told Dr. King to buy her for $12,000 at that very second. After the money was received, Calvin then gave a certificate of purchase to Dr. King, but before leaving, Calvin told Dr. King to shake his hand. Designer deal. At first, Dr. King refused, but because he was appointed by guns, like it or not, Dr. King agreed to shake Calvin's hand, but unexpectedly he shot him in the chest. The gunfight was inevitable. Dr. King and Calvin died as a result of the gunfight. Jangle managed to kill almost everyone, but he was forced to stop when he saw Stephen threatening to shoot his wife in the morning. Jangle was already been up. He was full of wounds and was hanged upside down. Stephen then came to tell that he would not be killed immediately but sent her the place of torture in the mine to die slowly. In the afternoon, Jangle and 3 other slaves were brought by 3 white men who headed to the mine. During the break, Jangle said that he was not a slave but a fugitive hunter. He offered the 3 men to work together to catch the fugitive for a deal with $11,000. He then showed the wanted posters he brought. The men couldn't easily believe him. They asked the other 3 slaves their first. The 3 slayings answered the Jangle was not a slave. Jangle came to Calvin's house with a rich white man. Hearing the answer just now, the 3 white men believed those words, then released Jangle and gave him a weapon. The moment he received the gun, Jangle immediately shot the 3 men and took the weapon he needed. He then ran from that place using a horse. Jangle then went to the base camp, where Calvin's men were gathered, and immediately killed them all mercilessly. When you got to Calvin's house, he could see the Dr. King's dead body was lying stiff. Jangle can only stare at the doctor and say thank you for his help. He then took Hilda's purchase certificate from Dr. King's wallet and then went to free Hilda from confinement. At the same time, Calvin's sister and his men returned home from Calvin's funeral. When they entered the mansion, they were confused to see Jangle was already upstairs. Without further ado, Jangle shot them all dead, leaving Stephen mind. Stephen begged for mercy, but Jangle didn't care as he walked and shot both Stephen's legs. The door jangle light of the explosive fuse that he had installed before the mansion exploded as he walked away from there to meet his lovely wife, who waited for him outside. The two of them had completely become free human beings. Thank for watching this video. Goodbye.